Okay. I don't know how lagged out this is going to be, if at all. We'll find out. I've got my stream open here too, so I'll try to keep an eye on it. But also, one second. Jesus Christ. Forehead is shiny as hell off of that. Okay, it's gonna be a little dimmer, but like blinding myself down here off the screen. Anyway, yeah, not really sure what was up with the streaming software, but it looks like it's working okay. I'm gonna hope that I've been having, it's been like on another level for me in the second half of the day where like I'll get connected to a VPN and it'll work for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll have to like connect to another server, and then it'll like, it's just been, I've been having a server jump. So I'll keep an eye on the stream and hope everything kicks in or stays good. With that in mind, I probably will have ads on Spotify this evening, so I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. So we'll probably have to have some little breaks from time to time, because Spotify doesn't like it when you spend too much time listening. That's like the one benefit of being in Russia right now. If you can get connected to Spotify, it's just like with YouTube, there's no ads. So anyway, yeah, kind of a good week. We've got 11 releases. We've got electronic, we've got pop and indie, we've got rap, we've also got, we got all the 4 main genres, and we got one that fits into the other category. Also, that light's flickering now, so I'm gonna have to go back over there in a second and rattle it around a little bit. But yeah, as it is, 11, and also a pretty nice mix too. We've got some of the mini albums, quite a few of those actually, but also a few EPs, a few. This feels like the first actual solid. Last week was pretty good for May too, but this feels like a really another pretty good one too. Even though all in all, it's kind of, I wouldn't say there's anything super amazing here, but there's some pretty good stuff. And there's actually 1 or maybe even 2 releases from late April that I have been meaning to get around to for like the last few weeks that I am just getting around to now. And we're actually going to start with one of those. So let me go ahead and transition over. And the first one we've got here is the mini album Juicy Days from the artist kbkbts. That is how you pronounce that, kbkbts, who is from Belarus, if I remember correctly. We've actually seen kbkbts. I've featured him, I think this is the 3rd time now, so I'm going to try in the future to not focus in on him, unless it's something like just completely amazing. This guy does a lot of sort of the sort of instrumental hip hop sort of beats type stuff, but this one feels a little bit different from some of the other stuff, mainly because it leans heavy into the boom bap kind of old school East Coast rap instrumental, and it's just got like a really nice old vinyl feel. And I was listening to this. I first listened to this honestly a few weeks ago, and it just like has a really nice, I don't know. It's again, the timing of this. It came out, like I said, in April. Very end of April, April 30th. But it does have like it is really aimed for those, I guess, juicy summer days, if you will. And it's when you hear an album like this, you're just like, this guy needs to find some rappers who know what they're doing. But okay, yeah, the stream disconnected. Okay, so I have a feeling that's maybe going to happen more than once this evening, so be prepared for that, I suppose. guess it's nice that the next track started without any delay right there. Yeah, like I said, I've featured kbkbts, I think twice before, with his Urban Motion earlier this year, and then I think last year I also... No, not that one. He's very... Like, to be fair, his music is, it is what it is. It's quite straightforward and simple, but... Damn, did I not feature him last year? Is it just... Maybe not. Normally there would be, like, some songs that are favorite. So, okay, maybe I've only... Anyway, he is fairly, like, his output is, you don't have to wait long for new stuff, so it's always nice. He's got, like, a really good old school atmosphere, and I realize that this is, like, a very specific, it's not even niche. There are a lot of artists that do this, but I don't know. I really appreciate when it does feel like it could be a deep cut off of some hip-hop album from, like, the late 1990s, for example. And even though it's, like, maybe not exactly that, because there is still some modern sensibilities in the beats here, I think there's enough that you get the overall vibe. So this is the mini album here, Juicy Days, from... Oh, Nujabes! Yeah. That's actually a really good reference. Yeah, from the artist here, kbkbts. Yeah, for those who don't know that reference, man, hold on. What was their like? Oh, god damn it, man! I can't even think of the. I think Modal Soul was the first one that I remember listening to, but yeah, Nujabes is Didn't they do like a split with somebody too? Or am I hallucinating that? I'll have to check. Yeah. Karosic's the lo-fi vibes to study to, or the lo-fi beats to study to. This is a lot of that too, but again, it does feel like you could definitely. It's not like so lo-fi. It does feel like, especially with the turntable scratches and some of those jazzier elements that are in there too. It does actually feel like, again, like a deep cut off of some, I don't know, like not the Roots or Most Def necessarily, but like one of those rappers from that era. But so yeah, we're gonna start that with kbkbts there, just because he's somebody I've featured before. Now moving on to somebody new, we have Feel Them with the, it says it's an EP, but again, it's over 21 minutes long. I'm going to classify it as a mini. I just like, that's kind of how I do it. This is glitchy IDM, a little bit brighter, a little bit upbeat tone and outlook. Just to really, really simplify things, the artist mentions Fortet, Caribou, Floating Points, Bicep, and Bonobo as modern groups that he is into. So I think those are all pretty good reference points. I feel like the first track is probably the... Yeah. I guess we can leave the little visualizer open there too. Speaking of Fortet, if I remember correctly, he just released an EP or something where he reworked some of his old ones, so it's good to see he's still putting stuff out as well too, even if it is kind of just reiterations of previous work. It's a small complaint, and it might just be the headphones that I'm currently in, but it feels like the mixing in terms of stereo on this could be done a lot more interestingly, with like a lot more of that actual stereo back and forth, so you get the like, but yeah, that's just kind of. I don't know, like, this, like, it is kind of weird, it's kind of bouncy. It's that music that, I was just watching a video earlier this evening about guitar porn, which is like Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen, and how the problem with those artists is a lot of times they just don't have any rhythm to latch onto. And like, I love this type of electronic, this IDM style electronic music where it's basically like the electronic version of guitar porn, but they do actually manage to find like, and it's really subtle a lot of the time, but like just enough of a rhythm for you to kind of like latch onto. But I don't, it's like holding on to a piece of driftwood in a raging flood. It's like you're holding on to it, but it's just like you're also just kind of going along with it at the same time. All right, one more here. The flickering is driving me crazy. All right, so it's gonna be shiny forehead. I guess there's no denying my true nature. Also for everybody who's here last night, where's Bezhentsov now, man? I can't be a negative sourpuss right now. I mean, and he's missing out on that. So yeah. Yeah, the listening to this again right now, and the reason I'm thinking about it now is because Karosik, you're here, and Karosik, you always like to talk about the mixing when they actually use stereo properly. So feels like a little bit of a lost opportunity on the mixing, but it's still good. I still like it. Also, anybody knows Dan Deacon? Like, hold up. I'm gonna pull up Dan Deacon. What album? Not Bromst. He did the Venom soundtrack. That is, I guess it makes sense. He would be like a soundtrack guy at some point in time. Jesus H. Okay. When was the last time he actually... Okay. Damn, I have to go back and listen to some of his America album, especially like the last 4 tracks. This sort of like drum percussion heavy reminds me a lot a bit. Reminds me a lot a bit like of kind of what Dan Deacon was doing on this. I think Rail is the... Or maybe it's, I don't know, it's like a 4-part song, basically. Yeah. Like where you got like the electronic noise and then it's like a drum line basically going on. So I'm like a big fan of that. Also, if you have not listened to this album by Dan Deacon, really good one. It feels somewhere between like glitchy IDM and Sufjan Stevens, but that's beside the point. The EP in question. What's up, End of Story? Good to see you. Good to see you. The EP in question is Mai, which is May in Russian, and the artist is Feel Zem, and this is actually his first release. So nice start. Okay, we're moving on to literally self-titled is the EP, and the artist here, the group here, is Birdsound Doorbell. Acid track would go pretty hard at a certain type of party. That is absolutely true. So this is one of those things that I'm just going to start playing it. This feels like emo post-rock, which I'm going to let the first track kind of play a little bit. And this album kind of basically is emo post-rock, which is such a great... I'm sure there are groups that kind of do that anyway, but I can't think of any right now off the top of my head, and I am a kind of a post-rock guy myself too. Emo, post-rock, like maybe even Midwest emo, but that's kind of up for debate. The thing is, when you actually get into the second track and the third track, obviously the fourth track is the outro, a minute 12 seconds, you'll realize that there's actually a bit of a kind of like a screamo light core here, or like the vocals are there, but they never push it too far to the front. So even though a lot of the press or a lot of the discussion around this release was connected to like, this is a screamo, it's like, it doesn't really feel screamo when the first track is 4.5 minutes of this, right? This is what I mean by like, yeah, this is like Midwest emo post-rock, I think, right? Or is this just post-rock? I don't know. So I'll be honest, from the first track alone, I was just like, all right, I'm kind of like, I like this. I could listen to 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 tracks of this, like variations, right? But when you get into the second track is when you realize that there's a little bit more going on. Although it also takes some time for it to reveal itself. There's also just a hint of black metal, and that's actually more noticeable on the third track, but you can hear it a little bit here as well. You know, like, it's kind of screamo-y, but not really. It's just more like the chain vocals, right? Like the chain gang vocals. But it's spent so much time in that weird like emo post-rock area. So when the vocals do come through like that, it doesn't feel like what I would describe as screamo. It feels more like the type of music that like at a concert, towards the end of the concert, where everybody's sweaty and kind of drunk, and they got their arms draped around each other, and like one arm is in the air, and there's like just shouting the lyrics out together. That's what this feels like, right? But ultimately, like, this is the real sound of Birdsound Doorbell. And this is the debut. This is the first thing they've put out. It's the only thing you can find by them, these 4 tracks. And I have to say, this group out of Novosibirsk has me intrigued. I am quite excited to see what they have coming next. It's like, let's be honest too, it's even got the like American football style artwork. Birdsound Doorbell sounds vaguely like American football too. The black metal is here. Let me find the black metal bit too. Yeah. I don't know whatever the hell's going on there. Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, vaguely black metal, in the same way that it's vaguely screamo. But I do think it is just this sort of like more post-rock with kind of the actual like old school emo sound, like when you go back to the late 80s type of emo, late 80s, early 90s type of emo. But really promising debut, really interesting. It's different. It's one of those things where I can't say with 100% certainty because I kind of listen to a lot of stuff these days, but I can't really recall anything quite like this. So that is the self-titled EP, or the EP self-titled, from the group Birdsound Doorbell. Moving on, we've got another EP. This one is this is the EP Doroga, domoi, or the road home, the way home. And the group here is lьды, хрупки. Or, I don't know how it's not thin ice, fragile ice, or something along those lines. But, no, I thought, okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, like, all of the tracks on this album are pretty good, or on this EP. I'm just going to hit play, let it go. As is kind of often the case with this sound right here, which I normally just label as 90s alt rock, I can't really name one specific group that it reminds me of. And then like when I do name a specific group, or if I do name a specific group, I'll like go and listen to them and then realize that my comparison doesn't fit quite that well. And so I'm not really sure if it's just one of those things where I was a little bit too young or not deep enough into the music scene in the early to mid 90s, or if this is one of those things where the subsequent decades have had this effect on my consciousness and the collective musical consciousness that when it comes to the sound of the 90s, it's now just this sort of nebulous term that we have a general understanding of. But like, this is very clearly a 90s alt-rock sound. But again, if you like try to tease specific elements out of this sound, like you can maybe like find some similarities to certain groups, but then if you actually go listen to the music from that specific group, you're gonna be like, that's not really that at all. Like, it's just this general hodgepodge of ideas, musical ideas from that era. How did I have it in my sort of verbose and pretentious? I have this pastiche. This is the pastiche sound formulated by imperfect memories and the distance of youth. That's like, again, this like that kind of alt-rock. Like, I always go back to Dinosaur Jr. It's not Dinosaur Jr. at all. Yeah, Jimmy 8 World would definitely work too. But that's the kind of the thing with this sound. It's just like it's it's deja vu, but you've never actually heard it before. It just is, it's the warped memory of songs that you heard in the past, and now that sort of cumulative sound that they have formed, and just the memory of that time period. So but it's done well. I just like, it's got like a nice old warm 90s alt rock sound. So I'm sure there is a term for fake deja vu. Isn't that... It's not the Mandela effect. There's gotta be a term for imagined deja vu. Because, like, obviously the Mandela effect, right? It's the Mandela effect, yeah. It's like that same idea, but for mistaken memories. And this is, yeah. Anyway, that is the EP Doroga, domoi. The group is Lьды, hrupki. And I think this is, I think the group has been around before. Yeah, they've got a few other releases under their belt, but like nothing massively, or, you know, like a bunch of singles, and it looks like we've got one EP a few years ago. So yeah, it looks like their output kind of has picked up in the last period of time. So maybe we'll get something a little bit more substantial out of the oddball Cyrillic letters with additional markings just do not do well in the standard format, or like the coding. It also took me forever to find it in my special character thing. But all right, now we jump over to rap, and this is, I'm just gonna call them OMERTÁ. It is Niman, Truer, Exy, and Captown. This is kind of, I don't like what you would call it, a super group of rappers out of Kazakhstan. They rap in Russian. I actually featured Captown twice last year. Once with their Cybertown album, but last year these guys put out the OMERTÁ album. This thing still slaps. Like, this is still a solid, just like really good old school rap album. This new release, this like sort of mini album, you know, it's a solid 25 minutes long. So it's not, you know, it's not quite a full length. It's a little bit more meaty than an EP. I guess you could call it a mixtape. That would be appropriate. It's mixtape season. These are 7 tracks that grew out of remixes that they had done on like their various independent projects, or like, sorry, not independent, their various individual projects. And then also, because it's Kazakhstan and there's probably, like, let's be real, 3 or 4 cities that these guys do shows in regularly. They do a lot of concerts together, and as a result of that, like with ciphers and just like getting up and rapping during live shows, the fans started to hear certain songs get brought up again and again. They were like, put those onto an album, and that's what they did. Yeah, this is just good. I mean, like, they had good stuff last year. This is good stuff now. It's just like a very kind of, in my mind, classic rap sound, like from that like 2000s era. It's like, it's not 50 Cent, it's not G Unit, but like it's got a lot of that energy too. Also, I just do love the fact that, like, some of the, in my opinion, some of the better rap/rappers right now in Russia are actually coming out of Kazakhstan, which, like, I mean, even the album artwork is just like such classic mixtape garbage, but that's actually that, and that would actually be really like a really good meme, like the whole like, can I have Japan? We have Japan at home, and then it's Kazakhstan. Yeah. And like the whole cypher atmosphere is very much here, because none of these tracks, as far as I can remember, actually have choruses. It's just like they all have their step up to the mic, and then the track's over. It's been a long time since I've watched rap music videos, and I'm sure like these are still a staple of them, but this music just to me screams like black Cadillac Escalade with the tinted windows in like a rap music video, which feels like that was one of those things. Maybe like an H3 Hummer too, like, you know, like one of those old throwback kind of sounds. Like, it's got enough pop sensibilities that it's like kind of like The Game, right? Like when The Game was first putting his stuff out. I guess there's a lot of that like early era of 50 Cent, The Game, when Aftermath Records was really kind of on top of stuff. Which is interesting too, because like I enjoyed that era, and I did enjoy all of those rappers, but I also wasn't like the biggest fan of them. So it's kind of interesting that that's like very clearly a 50 reference too. So yeah. It would be interesting to do a little bit of a dive into it too, but I do feel like 50 Cent, there's no denying his influence on the rap game in the States, but I feel like 50 Cent is still like a very kind of respected rapper here. Like, I don't like, I might be a little off on that, but it just feels like his impact here was maybe a little bit more somehow than it was in the States in the long term. Один прямо в центре, в голове идея, поднимать не центы, мы интеллигенты, да любим наличку, где твои проценты, с виду ты не рич, бой, бай, строчит личку, бросит бурных выходных, хочет топ для малых, явно нужен перерыв, ей, мы давно ушли в отрыв, да я падал, вставал, взял с собой пятиты. Дело не в одежде, мы просто скрываем лиц. Yeah, it's very much like the 50 Cent G Unit, The Game, yeah. It is one of those things that I feel like 50 Cent doesn't, like, he left a massive impact on the rap game in the States as well too, but it's one of those things where it kind of feels like the references to 50 here in Russia and the former Soviet Union, evidently, that his impact is still visible. Like, you can still hear it on tracks. And I come to think of it, this mixtape is what it reminds me of, which is maybe one of the reasons why it clicked so well. It's like one of those things where there have been a lot of throwback sounds to like the trap mixtapes with Gorilla Glue earlier this year, like the Gucci Mane trap mixtapes. There have been throwbacks to like the even earlier sounds of like the not Wu-Tang, but the East Coast stuff or various, but that specific like decade maximum, from say 2000 and 2002 probably is when In the Club came out, until about 2012, probably even a little bit before then, when Fitty was kind of that period before Lil Wayne kind of took the wind out of his sails. Yeah, like you can still, that's what this mixtape is. So, and that is Mixtape Season from the OMERTÄ group here, which is this collection of rappers from Kazakhstan. Really solid. Just got like that nice that old sound. Maybe it's time for me to go back and revisit some of 50s albums. But anyway, we're moving on. This is the self-titled album, but it's not self-titled. It is actually Zatvornica from the group Zatvornica. So 2 years ago in 2024, I actually listened to this group's first album, Что-то странно, and at the time, obviously I didn't. Oh, I did talk. I made a video where I talked about like 300 million albums, and I mentioned them briefly. And at the time, I said it's electronic, it's pop, it's metal/rock. But then I complained that there was a lack of consistency, that the sound of the first track was completely different from the next 4, which I thought was really like the core sound of the album. But then the second half had a massive tonal shift from there. So it was like one of those things where their first album I kind of liked, but it was just like they hadn't figured out what they wanted to do yet. That seems to have been figured out in the intervening 2 years. The group has added a saxophonist, which actually I think kind of is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but it's an art rock type of sound, which the saxophone really helps in the art rock department too. And let me just I think the second track's what we're starting with, but then the lead singer Maria's voice too just got this like really feathery, soft, just kind of complements everything that's going on around her. And the album itself is a pretty nice mix. The first half, I would say, is a little bit faster, edgier tracks. But then towards the end, it shifts into this slower, closer to shoegaze type of sound, which I'll highlight here too, whenever the music decides to play. I wonder if this is one of those things where, for some reason, we're missing out on the ads, but like the ad, whatever, it's playing now. Hey, there we go. So like, just right now, the sound by itself, like, it's so good, it's solid. We got disconnected, so I'm gonna wait for myself to reappear down here. Okay, wait for it. The saxophone, and I love how like there was a period of time where I feel like it was a running joke, the saxophone in music from the 1980s. And it feels like over the last 5 years or so, the saxophone is like coming back into that role of like, you want a song to really pop, you get the saxophone. The saxophone's where it's at. So seriously? Okay, well, evidently I'm going to highlight just a little bit more of like kind of the fast thing, and then I'm going to go to the 5th track and highlight a little bit more of that sort of slower, softer, shoegazier type of sound. Well, I feel like that's the VPN kind of making itself known. All right, well, I'll hit one of these slower tracks now and we can get a sample of that. I guess Spotify or the VPN is just gonna make sure I don't get carried away with playing too much music. Maybe skipping was a horrible idea. Probably not the best. Clearly not a good one. Okay, well, so it'll come back unexpectedly, and when it does, man. Yeah, and we were Karosik and I were talking about that where we've both been having problems recently. So yeah, I do like how Iran is now like yeah. Well, what's interesting too is that like I don't normally use a VPN for my streams. I usually use the DPI circumvention stuff, and I was using it fine today to like watch stuff on YouTube, but when I tried to connect the stream to YouTube, it just wouldn't go. So I don't know what that's all about too. Oh yeah, of course. The minute they decide to change course here, they'll just like be like, none of this actually ever happened. So I'll cut it there. So again, like I said, kind of the first half is a little bit more of that more upbeat, a little bit faster, not really aggressive, but still more energetic, alt rock, art rock kind of sound. And then you get into that back half, the last probably 3 songs. Shithalichka, I think, is still kind of somewhere in the middle. And it slows down and gets more into that sort of softer, shoegazier, dreamier sound. But again, I think the saxophone really is doing a lot of the, as I said before, heavy lifting. It's really making it something a little bit more interesting and unique from what would otherwise just be like a good sound, but kind of a generic sound. So that is the album Zatvornica from the group Zatvornica. And I guess they have... Not really a fan of the album artwork. It feels a little too... I don't even know what they're... I don't know what's going on here. I feel like this is one of those, like, maybe 20-something-year-olds who are having nostalgia for a period of time that they don't remember, like the early 2000s when there would be, like, these graphic type stuff. Yeah, like, okay, Ranietki, maybe that's the case, too. But anyway, now, I mentioned that we're going to talk a little about the other category. This is one of those albums that doesn't fit into the typical 4. This is the Leifar Dance Orchestra with the album Skybreak. Leifar is actually a house producer, DJ guy, but he evidently decided he was going to do a new jazz funk style project, and yeah, it's good. The end result is really good stuff. Got a lot of high energy, typically in the percussion end of things. The rhythm section is just like hella groovy, and the rest of what's going on musically is just like this nice flair. But that you every once in a while you have the guest vocals. Everything just like gels together. So it's both high energy and also very laid back at the same time. Really good album. Really fun album. It's like one of those things that maybe we'll actually get to listen to it if the internet decides. Karo's like, and the story's calling you out. Where you at? Ay. I guess while we're... well, there you go. The other thing I will say, and I've mentioned this in weeks past, but I remember when the film Anchorman came out, there was like the whole joke about jazz flute. And at the time it was played like as a straight up joke, but as I realized like jazz flute actually is kind of awesome. So, and this album has jazz flute. Fire Emblem. Is that on the Switch? Or am I... Oh, this is GameCube. Okay, man, that's a throwback. I missed the GameCube. Ah, you've got the homebrew on your Wii. I've thought about doing that. I have a Wii. I have a Wii, and I've thought about modding it to do the homebrew stuff, but I've never actually gotten around to doing it. Yeah, I know. For the homebrew, it's just like an SD card. You plug it in. I don't know. I should do it one of these days, but anyway, yeah, right. We got like the kind of like that rhythm section, especially in the bass, just back there, hanging out, in no hurry whatsoever. But then the drums are just kind of keeping things moving along nicely. All right, I got a feature. Antoja MC is one of those artists that's pretty much he's the guest vocalist on this track, and he's kind of a mainstay at summer festivals here in Russia. And it's interesting too, because he's like one of those artists that he puts out albums pretty regular. He's just like one of those really kind of off the wall, eclectic musicians. Does a lot of like kind of funky, jazzy stuff, but also kind of pop. And he fits perfectly here. So does a lot of scat, right? That type of stuff. That's scat, right? Yeah, scat man. Yeah, of course. Come on, just let me jump ahead a little bit. Don't make us wait 20 seconds for that. Oh, God damn it. All right, well. Oh, yeah, the sound completely dropped in my headphones, too. Even the, like, white noise is gone, so. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I guess I'll just hit another track real fast. Here the bass is a little bit more front and center, but again that really active and I guess, am I hallucinating it? Are the like the hi-hats are on the drums really often syncopated, right? Anyway, just the drums kind of do not exactly the same thing all the time, but they've got like a very specific role that they fill. The bass and the rest of the rhythm, like the keys, have a very like laid back, funky vibe, and then anything else that gets in the mix is just sort of there to like as this fun little window dressing. But it's this for 9 tracks, and it's all good. It's just like it's such a, just like with the Juicy Days mini album from kbkbts that I opened with, those two, like this album and that album together, have just like a really nice, you can kind of like play them one right after the other and get like a very just like awesome riding a fixed bike through the park in the afternoon type of energy, or I don't know. So very good. Again, it's one of those albums, like the timing was, I think, late April. Oh, it was early April. Damn. Well, I put it to the playlist in late April. So that is the album Skybreak by the Layfar Dance Orchestra. And it's really designed for summertime. I think it's just got like a lot of good summer energy. And the story says Russian music today is very much American music, like Soviet American jazz. I mean, like, I think so. I think there are definitely some Russian groups that have their own distinct style, but I think that's the thing with music, especially, right? Russian music, even, well, we can argue about Soviet music, but Russian music for a very long time was its own distinct flavor, but it did have a lot of connections to European music because of just, like cultural layover and proximity and stuff like that. And I feel like music's one of those things that really easily, again, I always go back to the group Pizzicato 5 from Japan, where like it was pretty much just straight up American music, but refracted through the mind of a bunch of like young Japanese individuals in the late 80s, early 90s type of thing. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, like there are not a bunch, but there are more and more Russian groups now who are doing that like folk or like kind of traditional music. And some of them are doing it well, but I think at the same time too, it's kind of annoying because a lot of them, and I run into it more and more, it feels like, with each few months. A lot of them are just doing this like sort of, it's traditional instruments and we're singing about Baba Yaga and Koshi and all that. It's just like, this is so fucking bland. It's just like so dumb. So I think if Russian music is emulating American music, that's not a bad thing because, first of all, as is often the case with music, and I think we're seeing that in American music right now, at least from what I can gather, it's kind of run into a bit of a dead end. Like it doesn't know where to go to next. A lot of artists aren't really sure where to move to. They're trying different musical ideas from around the world, and they haven't really found something yet. So it is totally possible that what's happening here with, I mean, like, it's not a really good indicator, but the fact that with TikTok, you have these foreign artists that can blow up and get like millions and millions of listens as tracks go viral. Like, I think there is something to it. Who knows? Maybe I don't think it will be the case, but maybe something like archive core from here will, like this, what's happening in SoundCloud rap in Russia will somehow break over into mainstream consciousness in the States, and then that will get reinterpreted. So it's like, it's always just like back and forth. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing with music too. Like, music is ultimately, we are all one and the same. And I think, there's always the whole thing where it's like, well, rock and roll was stolen, or like blues was stolen from jazz. And it's just like, that's music. Music just always takes from everybody else. And that's just kind of art in general. Artists are always biting each other's work. It's just a question of like how hard they bite, and if they're doing it because it's something that they love and they want to kind of do something similar to that but in their own way, or if they're doing it to just like straight up rip off somebody else's work. And I do feel like with music, most of the time it's just because I listen to X, Y, and Z, so now I'm going to play music that sounds like X, Y, and Z. So, but anyway, yeah, really fun album, really good album. I don't know if you've got like a party out at the dacha. Are you gonna go do some shashlik, or it's a little bit early for? Oh shit! In the States, we've got what is it? Memorial Day weekend is this next weekend. So you got to cook out. You can just throw this on, and it's got like that good, cooking, grilling some food, and being outside kind of energy. But okay, now moving on. This is this is pretty straight up. This is четвёртый album from the artist Gheorghi. Четвёртый album literally translates to fourth album, and it is his fourth album. So Gheorghi here has a very pretty straightforward naming system. So it was this week. Okay, well, that was my bad. All right, well, we missed out on Memorial Day. 4th of July is kind of soon, so kind of keep that in your back pocket. Anyway, Gheorghi is an electropop artist, I would say. Some people might classify him as electronic music, but he's definitely more like electropop in my book. And his second and his third albums I have listened to. The second one I listened to 2 years ago, and then the third album I listened to last year. He's been putting out one album each year, kind of like clockwork. Always typically two in like the first half of the year. And with each release, his sound has been getting more and more refined, getting like further and further honed. His sound is basically a mixture of Mujus, or for those of you outside of Russia, the artist may be like Moderat or Aparat, and Burial. So Mujus and Burial, or Moderat and Burial. It's got the vocals and the mood of the former, and then a lot of the like sort of post dubstep of the latter. Now last year with his третий album, his third album, I wasn't like a huge fan of the vocals. They were kind of odd. It sounded a little off. Like he wasn't really used to singing, which probably was the case. And he was doing a lot of it in English, which sometimes I don't have a problem with, but how forward they were in the mix and how present they were, it's just like, I don't know, this isn't working. That's fixed now. The English is gone, and his singing has gotten a lot better. So this is just like a really good, it's an interesting album. It's kind of a concept album. It's about like like a journey through sleep, like falling asleep and journey. It's obviously there's a lot of metaphorical stuff in there too, I'm sure. But yeah, let me just go ahead and throw something on. Oh God, this is like the one album I probably need to jump around on, and I'm gonna have some difficulty with it probably, but we'll give it a shot. Are you serious right now? Yeah, for real. Slava Ergen, for sure. Wow. Just on another level. Okay. Maybe I'll just try another track and see if that... Okay, I'm just gonna like let this one play a little bit. That's always the problem though, is intros typically tend to be where things are a little bit slower and the more dynamic sections are what I typically would jump to, so. Yeah, yes. Glory, glory to them. Oh God, oh God, oh God. I'm gonna do it. All right, got a little bit of that burial sound. Waiting for the vocals to come back now. Definitely a lot more electronic there, but I do want to show the like the pop end of things too. With lead, I should know. It's like PL something, right? Blah 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 blah. Man, I should remember. I know it's one of those things. Svinets, of course it is. Yeah. That's right. What was I thinking of? Yeah, Svinets is that's actually, I had not thought about that, but that is a nice little connection. Wait, hold on. What the hell was I thinking of? There is nothing that I was thinking of. Okay. I'm hallucinating metals.
Улетай и не плачь. Ну же, будет тебе. Прекрати.
There are definitely some vocal samples throughout this thing too.
Прощай.
Не жди меня, меня не жди.
Boom boom, yeah. That's what I was thinking of. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah. I don't know. Why was I thinking of the Latin name for lead, which is nothing like either Russian nor English? I guess, yeah. Oh, of course. So while the song has given me a moment to, this is one of those albums that is, because it's a concept album, because it does rely heavily on atmosphere and this whole thing flowing from one track into the other. This is, as is often the case with some of these albums, I feel like there's at least one album each week where it's just like, you just kind of have to listen to it. And I would say that of all of the albums this week, this is probably it, where it's a little bit darker, it's a little bit dreamier and sleepier. But if and actually this does work really well with headphones. The mixing is pretty solid here. It probably could be a little bit better. Oh, Plum Bum, that is a good joke. But like as an entire concept from start to finish of this sort of like dreams in music is always, it feels like it's an outplayed. I don't know. It's just been like used to death. But I don't know. Gheorghi here actually manages to make it sound interesting again, or like to make it still sound dreamy but also dynamic, to sound dark but also not necessarily sinister. It's a very atmospheric release, and it does come together very well. And it's one of those albums that when you listen to it, and especially if you go back and you listen to the albums that came out like before this, and if you can see like the trajectory, it is one of those things where with each album he's getting better and his sound is getting cleaner and like more and more sharp and just like dagger-like in terms of its efficiency. So it is exciting to see after an album like this too, and understanding what he's done before, like what theoretically could come next. So, oh yeah, that's like Burial. It's Burial and Mujus, or Mujus. So yeah, it's a good album. It's definitely one that you kind of just have to sit down with. I know when I first listened to it, I was just kind of like I was like listening to the first track, which is definitely, it's like, it's got the strings. It's a very weird, like, you know, very dramatic opener. And it wasn't until I actually sat down and just listened to it. And oddly enough, this was one of those albums I first listened to while I was getting ready to go to sleep. And that is when it was just like, this is kind of, there's something here to it, right? I don't know. I guess, whatever, I'll just hit pause. That is the album четвёртый альбом from the artist Gheorghi. So, check it out. Check it out. All right, we're at the tab limit, which means we're getting close to the end. Up next, we have the artist. It'll appear here in a second, I promise. Gipnobazа is the name of the artist, and the album is Hor Водолей. Any minute now. I'm just going to hit reload on these other ones too while I'm at it, and hope to God that they open sometime in the next week. So, seriously, all right. Gipnobazа, yeah, well, it's pretty close. If steps need to be taken, I will take necessary steps. But for now, I'll just kind of talk what this is going to sound like. It's indie pop that is steeped in Soviet nostalgia. That's how the band describes their sound. And it does kind of make sense. There's plenty of warm, pleasant synthesizers in this music, stuff that you would imagine from the late USSR. But it's also kind of retro in the way that Buddy Holly by Weezer was retro. But at the same time, they have moments where it feels like they're trying to channel Muse, which I get it. It's obviously indie rock. Holy Christ, what is going on? Oh, it stopped loading too. So I guess we finished loading. That's cool. Let me just... Can I open any? Can I just open Spotify, like, at all? Like, just any Spotify? Just the main page on Spotify? Well. Oh, you got scared, you son of a bitch, Spotify. You can go fuck yourself on that one. You got scared. You got scared. Oh my god. You saw that. You all saw that. The minute I opened Yandex Music, they were like, oh shit. Oh, no. We gotta open this up. So, you little bitch, Spotify. That you got caught in 4K. There's no going back from that, Spotify. Anyway, this is sonically, it's very indie rock, kind of subdued for the most part, but it does let loose from time to time. And there are moments on this album, I couldn't figure out what it was for the longest time, that reminds me of the Strokes, honestly, like the old Strokes. Again, this is one of those albums that's a little bit more fast and upbeat in the first half. It slows down a little bit. It's also a concept album about AI taking over the world and killing off most of humanity, and then the rest of humanity living in a dystopia. So kind of the general vibe of life in Russia, I guess, in 2026 or something. Actually, the concept feels like something that Muse would be into as well. So maybe the Muse... God damn it. Am I going to have to open Yandex again, Spotify? Is that it? Is that you want me to open Yandex Music again? I will. I'm going to do it. You're going to make me do it. Although there's no guarantee that Yandex actually... I'm going to keep Yandex open. I'm going to... This is probably the standout track on the entire album. Or at least it's like the lead single, or the one that's probably going to get the most play. It actually came out at the end of last year as a single. Alright. Yeah, God, look at Yandex. Yandex Music has gotten even worse somehow. I'm keeping my eyes open on the electronic scene. It's been kind of, I don't want to say dry, but I haven't really encountered too much electronically that's just, I don't know, like, if anything, and this is gonna be the one part, if anything, I usually end up having more electronic releases in my playlist than I would expect. But it's just been, honestly, this year has been kind of dry when it comes to like overall releases. Like there have been, like there's good stuff, but I played Maidcore not long ago. Come on. You can't get me on Maidcore. I did actually play Maidcore. So this is the track that reminded me a little bit of like Buddy Holly by Weezer. Yeah, going back to the electronic releases, I think in general it's just been kind of I haven't featured as much electronic as I think I have in the past. That is fair. But I'll be honest too, I haven't featured as much like metal as I did last year either. And even indie, like actual indie music has been kind of, it's just been, I don't know, I'm waiting for 2026 to like get its act started and to get in gear. Like this is a good album, right? I'm not gonna pretend that it isn't, but I don't know, it's just like, I feel like 2026 just might be one of those years. kind of hear like a Soviet Buddy Holly here, right? Yeah, Lionclad, you can check out Lionclad, end of story. If you're looking for electronic stuff that's kind of out there. And then this is the one that reminded me of the Strokes, although it took me forever to figure out it was the Strokes that it reminded me of. Again, kind of like a Soviet The Strokes. Yeah. There's actually quite a few tracks on this. Once I figured out it was the Strokes and not, I was like, is that Muse again? Is he doing Matt Bellamy once again? It's like, no, it's not Muse. What is it? And then it was the rhythm of his singing was just like, that's Julian Casablancas. Like, that's the Strokes right there. So it's just like, it's an interesting mix. We got kind of like the sort of more upbeat indie. There's a little bit of Muse. We got the Strokes in here too, but it's all kind of Soviet at the same time. It's an interesting album. It's a good album. I think it's one of those albums that, like, obviously there are songs that I prefer more than others, but as a whole, all of the songs work together. So it is one of those albums where there aren't any, like, the first track and the intro, the outro, and this weird little interlude here. If we don't count those types of things, every other track is solid and makes sense in the course of the album. So yeah, just really nice, kind of light, kind of fun album. Again, is it one of those that, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, it's gonna be like, yeah, this was like a fantastic, like one of those albums I still think of regularly? No, not really, but it's a good album. And in the overall, like, kind of indie music, like, when it comes to full-length releases, not EPs, but like actually full-length, you know, longer than 30-minute style releases, we haven't had like a ton this year. And so this is like, it's up there. So it's still a good release. It is Hor Водолей, or the chorus of, what is it in the horoscope? Водолей in the horoscope. Aquarius. No, wait, is it Aquarius? Is something that's stupid? It's gotta be Aquarius, right? It's like so obvious. Yeah, that's their whole thing is a very Soviet vibe. So if you look at their other releases, you're definitely going to see that. Okay, yeah. So it's a chorus of Aquarius in English, which, again, I don't really know. I don't know if that's like a dawning of the age of Aquarius. It's like an allusion to that. But the group is Gipnobazа as well. So I'm going to keep this open here. We're just going to go on to the next group. Now, this is the debut from a group out of St. Petersburg. And if you have never heard of the group Future of the Left before, go check them out. But I love the group Future of the Left. They haven't put anything out in years, even though they're technically still around. They just don't put any music out anymore. It's like British post-hardcore but noise rock, and it's like really sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek, but also really caustic. That's basically this, Out of St. Petersburg, but with more punk energy. And they just do it really, really well. And I absolutely love this sound. And yeah, I'm just gonna... I'll actually be right back too. Sneaking back into the cinema in the middle of the film. All right, we're back. So again, for those of you who are not familiar, that's Cyrillic. That's still Cyrillic. If you've never heard of this group right here, Собак, sounds a lot like Future of the Left, but with more of this punk energy. Also, I love the album artwork. I don't know what's going on, but I don't really care. I love this sound. It's such a very specific sound. Again, it's like kind of punk, it's kind of post-hardcore. It's very, it just sounds like Future of the Left to me. And Future of the Left to me has always also been like a very kind of like, not even British, it's Welsh. And the Welsh are weirdos to begin with, so in like a good way. Lyrically, it feels like the dude's about to just like lose it just completely. And not because he's necessarily like just only pissed off, but just because he's at wit's end from everything. well, I suppose that's a good time to stop. So anyway, yeah, that's the general sound. I'm a big fan of it. I think it's great. It's also something I, again, have not really heard out of many groups ever, aside from Future of the Left. So when I heard it here, it was just like, oh, damn, all right. So that is I'm calling it a mini album. That is the mini album Mera, Всего, or The Measure of Everything, by the group Собак, 100 dogs. Yes. All right. Now, the final one. And honestly, this is one of those where I could have put the Собак as the final album. I think like the last 4 albums are all quite different, and I think depending on like they're all really good. I just kind of went on this one because I don't know. Metal's also been there in the last month or two. We've had some pretty good releases, but it's just been a pretty dry month too. And so when this album, A Vessel of Torment, by the group Nomen Illis Legio, came out. First of all, it's a 2-man project out of Tyumen in Siberia, which I think we have talked about Tyumen before, but regardless, Tyumen is one of those places kind of like, it's out there a little bit. This is the whole palette of metal, right? We got groove and thrash and death and mellow death, that subgenre in there as well, and prog metal and black metal. And all of those genres, like this is one of those things where you're like, oh, it's just going to sound like whatever. But these guys managed to weave all of it together in a way where it never really feels like one of those styles is outweighing the other styles, but at the same time, it never feels like those styles like prog or black, which don't get featured as much, it never feels like they're just shoehorned in because it's like, oh, we should put some black metal in here. It's one of those things where these are people who just listen to a lot of metal, and again, right, like I like bands X, Y, and Z, so I want to play music that features X, Y, and Z sounds. And that's the result of this. Lyrics are in English too. That's just like one of those things. Also, and I can't remember the name of the artist, but there is a really famous artist who does paintings that are always like these metal album paintings, and I still don't know if this is his work or if there's just somebody else here in Russia who is doing this, but like classical art that is then obviously used for metal groups. But let me just go ahead and get us into this. I actually want to start with, I think, this one. So we went from kind of prog metal into thrash metal without skipping a beat. And now we're kind of like somewhere in groove metal territory. Kind of the riffing and the blast beats of black metal. Like it's doing a lot of things all at the same time. Not all at the same time, in order. Now we go back to thrash. Like, this is kind of what I'm talking about. It feels like, you know, like those medley songs where they play a bunch of different songs all together. It kind of feels like that, but in a more natural composition. I think obviously groove and thrash and death are probably the three main like core components of the overall sound, but we'll hit up the title track for a second here too. Got a little bit like the Kerry King with the guitar, like we're getting ready for Raining Blood. Got the groove. It's one of those things where when you start to it's one of those things where it's like when you start picking apart like what they're doing, and like again, not to say that you can't have groove and thrash metal or like groove and black metal together, but like when you start seeing the different permutations of it, it becomes a little bit more interesting. Just to think that, like, I mean, I'm sure I've heard other stuff, but it feels like a lot of times groups tend to have a pretty straightforward sound where they don't mix as much as it feels like what's going on here, but like we just switched up time signatures, and I guess that's I guess that's where we're going. Yeah, we just switched up time signatures, so we get into a little bit of the kind of proggy stuff. It's even like it was a little guitar lick back there too that reminded me of Mastodon from Crack the Sky, maybe, or maybe Blog Mountain. I don't remember exactly. If there's one complaint with it, it's just that like sometimes it almost feels like there might be a little bit too much going on, in the sense that like they have these really good ideas and they use them like in those bridging moments, and then it just kind of like disappears and doesn't come back to it, or nothing more happens with it. But that's how you say their name. Nomen Illis Legio. Legio. Thank you for... So, yeah. It's... like Anna Story said, it's not what I would listen to regularly, but like in and of itself, it's good for people who enjoy it. And I do think like if you like metal, just like as a general concept, and you don't have some specific dedication to a specific subgenre, and you actually listen to all the subgenres, then this is one of those releases that's actually quite interesting to actually pay attention to the various genres that they are mixing and matching. And again, just the fact that when I was sitting here thinking about it, and like, how would you explain like juxtaposing these two metal subgenres next to each other? Like, in theory it works, but then you're like, but then they switch it up to prog metal, and it's just like, when you start to explain it in words, it's just like, that feels like it's going to be like an absolute mess. But it doesn't. Just like, these guys are just playing metal music, and it's just like, they know what they're doing. So that's kind of the big thing. And yeah, I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm going to end the stream this week with this album right here, A Vessel of Torment by Nomen Illis Legio, or Legio. I think that's going to do it for me. But at the same time, any of the last few albums, I think reasonably are really good releases that, from what we have seen so far this year, or at least in the last month or two, is what I would say. And not to downplay the quality of these releases either. I think this is one of those albums that I would say too, where the first time I listened to it, it was also, as was kind of the case with Gheorghi, and as was kind of the case with Gipnabazа, where the first time I listened to them was like, yeah, I get this. This is, this is fine. But then when it came around a second time, like, again with Gipnabazа, that was when I realized it was, that was when I was just like, wait a minute, this sounds like Soviet Buddy Holly. And then a little bit later, it was like, wait a minute, that's the Strokes. And it's like, I think with, and Gheorghi too was one of those albums where the second time I listened to it, it started to click. So maybe that's kind of the thing. I'm going to kind of get us off here. Maybe that's kind of the thing with the releases that we've seen so far this year, where it's not so much there haven't been, at least in my opinion, many releases where from the first time I listened to them, it's just like, you just know immediately it's like, that's it. Like, that's fire right there. It's like, from, you know how it is, right? There are sometimes when an album gets put on, and there I guess there have been some. I think Bureau had a really, really good one, and then I cannot think of it right now. If I saw the album cover, it was also like a month ago at the end of April. Anyway, there have been a few, but like, there haven't been a ton of the ones that are just like, the minute they come on, it just like, I'm completely floored, which is fine. Like, that's good. It's good that it comes and goes. Maybe we'll get into the end of the year, and that's actually how it kind of was last year too, at least in indie music. I remember indie music last year was pretty dry up until September and October, and then there was just like, or maybe October and November, and then it was just like every single week, which was like, so it maybe is just one of those situations too, where like the release schedule is a lot drier in the first half of the year for various reasons, like the winter holidays, and then the May holidays, and then I don't know. Obviously, all of that does play effect, just as it does with the movie release schedule. It does influence the music release schedule to some degree as well. Not as much as it did, like, say, 20 years ago, but still, nevertheless. But yeah, that's that. So we had 11 releases this week, which is a pretty solid, more solid than it has been the last 2 weeks. There weren't as many EPs as it was too, so pretty glad about that as well. There are actually, I want to say, like 4 kind of big releases also from May that I haven't gotten around to yet, and then tomorrow is the final Friday of May too, so it is possible that we will see some other ones. I know the group Cup Size is supposed to be releasing a new album tomorrow as well. So, and Cup Size is one of those groups that I've featured in the past fairly regularly. So yeah, maybe it is. Maybe everything's going to start picking up here at the end of May into June. But as it is, that's it. That's the end. What I will say is, aside from music, the plan is I don't have it really anywhere close to being ready yet, but I think tomorrow I will have the final video from the Krasnoselskaya region up, and you should be able to check that out tomorrow evening Moscow time, so it'd be like afternoon in the States. But yeah, aside from that, I don't know. I've already got a few albums too already lined up. I just need to like sit down and re-listen to them, so we're good. We're getting back into it. The May was slow at the start, but I'm ready. And then, like, let's be real, Monday is the 1st of June, and sort of calendar summer fully begins, and I feel like that's always just, it's such a dumb little mental thing, but it definitely makes things easier. Even just, even if your workload doesn't really change, there's just that sort of mentally there's some alleviation, and I think the weather has been kind of dog shit for the last week, at least here in Moscow, and I'm guessing like most of the European part of Russia, and that's kind of going to be better next week. It's going to be warmer at least, so yeah. Anyway, neither here nor there. That's all that. Everyone have a good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of the day it happens to be where you're watching this. This has been a long one, but we've had some technical difficulties, so what are you going to do? Y'all take care of yourselves. I will see you when I see you. And until then, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Пока-пока.